Welcome. Let's get started. Okay, today we're going to build a React tutorial. React is a JavaScript library, and we're going to build a very simple application modeled after a blog. It's going to be a fruit blog of all things. Let's go. Okay, so there are two steps in this tutorial. The first is planning and the second is execution. So let's start planning. This is my very simple outline of the blog application that we're going to do today. As you can see, we have a header. It says ABCs of fruit. We have some option icons on the side that give us an option to, that give us 3 cards. One for apple, one for banana, and one for cherries. And then we have the featured fruit icon that says apple. It tells you the name of the fruit, gives you a picture of the fruit, and it gives you a little saying. It says, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Okay, so I have color-coded this plan to include components the way a UI UX designer might do. So the outline in black is my overall blog, and then in orange I have the featured fruit, and then in yellow to the right I have a sidebar which contains each of these cards in it. The pink outline for an apple card, banana card, and cherry card. Okay, and this is just showing you the same thing except written in words. Okay, and as you can see, I've chosen to use uppercase, camel case to name my components. Okay, let's get into the coding. So the way we're going to start this tutorial is by using Create React App in our command line or terminal. So here I am in my terminal. It's called First React Tutorial, but my application, I'm going to call it First React App if you'd like to follow along with me. So I'm going to use the Create React App command, and then I'm going to name my application First React App. And if you don't already have Create React App installed, I installed mine using Yarn. That's personal preference, but it's also the default a recommended option now. However, you can also install Create React App using NPM. It's pretty fast. Okay, here we go. It says happy hacking. Great. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to ls, and I'm going to show you that we have this first React app in our folder, which was previously empty. And I'm going to cd into that application. Oops. And show you the files that are in here. So we have a few folders. We have the src folder where we'll do all of our coding. We have the node modules created by the Create React App command that will handle everything like build and like automatic re-updating as you change your code. And we have our public folder, which will have things like our index.html file. So real quick, I'm just going to run this command, yarn start, like it shows right here. And that's going to start the application, the like cookie cutter application that was created by Create React App. So we haven't done anything yet. Let's see what it shows us. Okay, here we go. Here is the application that you get just with Create React App. And I am assuming that if you're watching this tutorial, you're already somewhat familiar with web dev, but I'm just going to explain very quick how this code is rendered that you're seeing on the screen right now. So I'm going to move over to, I'm going to exit real quick. It's still going to run unless I refresh the page. And I'm going to open the contents of this Create React App, First React App application in VS Code. And you can use any application that you prefer to code your program. Okay, so here we go. We have our, like we saw before, we have the node modules folder. We have public, which I'm going to open real quick, and then I won't look at again. So here's our index.html folder. Here's some helpful comments that are like pre-built for you. I'm going to get rid of them just because I don't want to see them when I do inspect, but it really doesn't make any difference. They're just comments. Okay, now check out here. You're going to see div ID is equal to root, and then there's nothing within this div. It's all blank. So what are we seeing rendered on the screen? Well, here's what's going on. Now I'm going to go into the src folder, and I'm going to go to app.js. Okay, look at this. Here's an A tag, and it has the words Learn React. Okay, well, we see that right here. We see a link that says Learn React, so that's a good hint. So clearly this code in our app.js file is being rendered into our index.html file. How is that happening? What's going on is we have this index.js file that again is pre-built for us, and it imports app from the app.js file, and you don't have to add .js. It will automatically assume that it's a .js file if you import it in this manner. Otherwise, you have to specify, like later we will import images and we'll specify that they're .png files. Okay, so what's going on in the index.js is it's going to the DOM and it's rendering our app component into the root ID. Super cool. Okay, so we don't need any of this, so I'm going to clear everything that is currently being put onto this page within the app component. So I'm just going to leave the div class name equals app. I'm going to save. Here we see it's all empty. Fantastic. So let's inspect real quick, and I'm going to leave this inspection bar open for most of this tutorial. And here in the body you see div ID is equal to root, and then you see your app with nothing in it. That's great. That's what we want. Okay, so now let's start building out the components that we planned in our planning stage. Okay, well, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create each of these. I'm going to create a JS file separately for each of these components, and I'm going to put them into a component folder within my src folder. So again, I'm going to exit out of this build. I'm going to ls. I'm going to cd into the src folder, and I'm going to make a components directory. cd into the components folder. And now I'm going to make each of my JS files. I'm also going to give them each a CSS file just in case I want to modify things. So let's see my component names. I have blog, FeaturedFruit, Sidebar, and FruitCard. So and then for each of these I will want a CSS file as well. And here they are in my folder, and it should be one CSS and one JS for each of my components. Great. Okay. Now I should see them here in my source folder. I have all of my new files with nothing in them. That's to be expected. Okay, now let's look at, we've done this, let's look at our coding hierarchy. So the top of our hierarchy is going to be blog, and then you can just see this from our map here. So obviously you can see visually that blog owns FeaturedFruit, and it also owns options, which owns each of the fruit cards. So now let's talk about props versus state. Props are going to be variables that we keep that aren't going to change. So what is an example of a prop in this program? Well, let's look at our design again. What's never going to change on this page as it's designed? Remember, the design is that if you click on apple, banana, or cherries, the featured fruit will change. Okay, well, our options are never changing. We're always going to have the option to select apple, banana, or cherries. So we're going to think of those selection options as props. Okay, then what is changing? Well, the featured fruit, right? If we select either apple, banana, or cherries, the featured fruit will change. So that's what we're going to call our state. State is the variable that changes. And now we have to think about who owns state. So let's think about this yellow sidebar component. Does the sidebar use state? Not really. It's always going to look the same. It's always going to have apple, banana, and cherries as your options. So, okay, they don't use state. What about featured fruit? Yes, clearly the fruit that's featured is going to depend on featured fruit, which is our state variable. So, should featured fruit own state? No. Here's the trick. Even though the sidebar doesn't use state, it will set our state, because by clicking on those card elements owned by the sidebar, that's setting our state. So it also needs access to state so it can set it. So that means we're going to try to keep this as simple as possible. We only want state to be owned by one component and for them to pass it to their children components. So we need to use the least common denominator of all of the components that use state. And in this program, that's going to be blog, okay, outlined in black here. So here we have our hierarchy again, and we see that blog owns state, featured fruit uses state, and FruitCard modifies state, because you're going to select the fruit card that you want to be the featured fruit. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, let's forget all of the state stuff and first just create a skeleton with our code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this app.js and I am going to call on blog. Okay, oh no, it doesn't have a blog yet. It's going to throw an error. Here, when I run it, I'm going to do yarn start. And actually it's going to have trouble starting because I just threw an error. But we're going to fix that very quickly. Okay, so let's go to blog. I'll show you just in one moment. Oh no, blog is not defined. Okay, well, let's fix that. So let's go to blog, and we're going to import React from React, just like the app.js file did. And we're going to create our blog component. So class blog extends react.component. Okay, and in our blog class, we're just going to render something. So render return. I'm just going to return null. Okay, we'll worry about that later. And then at the bottom of this page, we're going to do export default blog. Okay, we're exporting our blog component to app. Okay, oh wait, we have to import blog from, what directory is it in? Well, app is in our src directory, but blog is in our components directory. So we're going to use this notation. Dot / means same directory that we're currently in, which is src. And then we're going to go into the components folder, and then we're going to grab blog. And we actually don't need to write JS, because as we discussed earlier, it knows already that it's a JS file. That's the default. So now, no errors. And let's look into the body of our file. We have the app. Let's, instead of returning null, let's return a div class equals blog. And we should see that over here. Class equals blog. Bellissimo. Okay. So what's going on in the blog? Well, the most important thing that the blog has is it has if you remember from our presentation, the blog has a header that says ABCs of fruit, so let's just knock that out. So let's put an H1 element. And it's just going to say ABCs of fruit, exclamation point. There it is. That's kind of ugly, so I'm going to add some CSS to that. Blog.css, let's do an H1 file, and then we'll have like background color. I like, no, let's do light sky blue. I like that. And let's give it some padding and margin. Interesting. Oh, we haven't imported the CSS file. Okay, import. It's in the same folder. It's in the components folder. So we just do dot backslash, and then we'll do blog.css and semicolon. Now we save, and there we go. We have our sky blue background, and it has a nice padding and margin. Okay. And also, I'm going to change the text color to purple because I like it. Beautiful. Okay, so there's our H1, and then what else does blog contain? Well, it contains the rest of our components, right? And its children components are, let's go to the hierarchy, FeaturedFruit and Sidebar. So the way we showed this in our plan, we have FeaturedFruit taking up about 2/3 of the page and Sidebar taking about 1/3 of the page. So I'm going to implement Bootstrap, the Bootstrap CSS file. So I'm just going to copy that CSS link over here on the Bootstrap getting started page. Oops. Copy. And then I'm going to put that into the index.html file. Save. Okay, now I go back to blog.js, and I'm going to, oh, you know what? And then I'm going to make another row. Great. And within this, I'm going to have the Bootstrap 12-point grid system. So I'm going to make one column that has 8 points and another that has 4 points. The one will have 2/3 of the page and the other will have 1/3 of the page. So and then just so I have nice padding and margin, I'm going to put a size 12 div in there. Gotta close the div, dude. Yeah. And I'm gonna do the same over here. And just to show you what this will look like, I'm gonna give this an ID. ID is equal to left call. ID is equal to right call, and then I'm going to change my CSS. So let's do dot left call. Actually, sorry, it's an ID, so left call. I'm going to do color. Remember from our plan, we made this orange, so I'm just going to keep the color the same. I'm going to make it orange. And the right call color is going to be yellow, just like our plan. Okay, let's see if that is working yet. Not yet, because it doesn't have a minimum width. Oh, it doesn't need to be width, it needs to be min height. Okay, silly goose. And it doesn't need to be color, it needs to be background color. Okay. And we want this to be overflow hidden. Okay. There we go. Okay, we see our orange on the left and our yellow on the right, just like we want. Okay, so now let's fill these in. Remember, we're not going to handle anything else in blog anymore quite yet. We're doing the skeleton right now. So let's just have blog call on its children elements. So the left-hand side is going to be featured fruit, closing tag, and then the right-hand side is going to be the sidebar. Okay, nice. We'll pass it some things, but we won't worry about that quite yet. So, okay, it's got to import those things, but before it does that, let's actually fill these in. Or, I'll just import it up here. Okay, and then let's go to those JS files. FeaturedFruit. Okay, let's do class FeaturedFruit. Extends React.component. Okay, open this up. We'll do our render, and then on the inside we will return. I'm just going to return null for now. Okay, just so we have something, and then we do export default. Default featured fruit. Thank you. That should work, and then we do the same thing with sidebar, the other child element. Let's see. Yes, this works, or else it would be throwing us an error. By the way, I'm saving by doing Command S on a Mac. You should be saving periodically in order to see your changes reflected on the local host. Okay, like saving each of the files that you modify. Okay, maybe we should fix the CSS real quick because I don't like how these are kind of extending beyond where this margin is here. So let's go to the blog CSS, and maybe what we can do is give the rows some padding. So does that look better? Yeah, that's a lot nicer. Okay. And then are they pretty even here? It's hard to tell if those line up exactly. I think it does. Okay, nice. And now let's go to FeaturedFruit, because we're going to have to do this one more time, because FeaturedFruit also has a child element, which is, nope, not FeaturedFruit. Sidebar has a child element, which is the FruitCard. So let's import FruitCard from and we'll call it down here. Okay, and then let's go to FruitCard and fix this just like we did before. Instead of FeaturedFruit, it will say FruitCard. Okay, and if it's working, then it will be working here. Okay, so have we completed our skeleton? Almost. Now let's start thinking about what we need to pass to each of the children elements. So obviously we're going to start with blog. I'm just going to exit out of the app because we're no longer going to use it. Okay, so FeaturedFruit is this left component, and it uses state. Blog owns state, FeaturedFruit uses state. Okay, so blog is going to have to pass state to FeaturedFruit. So first, let's write what state is and what the props are. Excuse me. So blog is going to have the props, which is the 3 different fruits. So let's just write that. That's going to be a variable const. I'm going to call it fruits, all caps, is equal to an array. Okay, and then inside the array we're going to put JSON for each one of our fruits. Let's do this template. So we're going to give the fruits, they're each going to have a name. They're each going to have text associated with them. And they're each going to have an image src. Okay, and I have 3 of them. Apple, banana, and cherries. And then we have some text go along with it. So I'll say, you are the apple of my eye, super cute. And then I'm going to do, you are driving me bananas, that's unfortunate. And I'm going to do French for cherry. French for my darling. That's not, it's backslash, there we go. My darling is mon cherry. Okay? It's mon cherry, but you get it, it's cute. Closing one. Okay, there we go. And then, oh, we need to import the images as well. We're going to put that into our JSON. So let's import. First of all, let's put an images file folder into our src, and let's populate it with images. So I'm just going to copy from the example I already have. Copy, I'm going to put this into my src. Paste. So now my src should have an images folder populated with 3 images, an apple, a banana, and cherries. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to go back to the blog, and I'm going to import each of those images. So I'm going to import apple from, let's think about where this is. So images is in the src folder, but currently we're in the components folder. So we're going to do ... to go to the previous folder from where we are, and then we're going to go to images, and then we're going to pull from apple.png, and we're going to do this 3 times. Apple, banana, cherries, and then we're going to use them as our image src. So, whoops, apple, banana, cherries. Save. Great, we're not doing anything with this yet, but now we have that. Okay, and now let's think about our state. So state is going to be the featured fruit. So where do we deal with state? Well, we deal with state within our class, within our least denominator common class blog. And we're gonna, whenever we deal with state, we need a constructor function within our class. So we're gonna do constructor, we're gonna accept props as always, and then we're gonna do super props, which allows us to declare state and to bind state to other elements within our class, to other functions, which we will do later. and we're going to declare state. So this dot state is equal to, it's going to be JSON. So we're going to call it our, what did we call it? Oh, featured fruit. And for now, it's going to be apple. Okay, great. And yeah, well, let's start with that, and then we'll talk about how we can change the featured fruit. But for now, we have everything we need to do the featured fruit function. So featured fruit needs, it needs all the fruits to choose from because we need the information that's in this fruits const. We need the name, the text, and the image. So I'm going to pass fruits equal to fruits within these curly brackets. And I'm also going to pass to it the featured fruit because obviously it needs that to know what to display. So I'm going to pass featured fruit is equal to, do I need the curly brackets for this? I think I do. This dot state dot featured fruit. Exactly. Okay, that's great. So let's go there. Now, as part of the props of featured fruit, it is going to have access to fruits and featured fruit. I know I'm reusing names. It's a little bit confusing, but this is lowercase featured fruit, and it's the state in block. When it gets passed to our component, capital F, uppercase featured fruit, it's going to be a part of the props of featured fruit. So this is something about React, is whenever you pass something to another component, that child component does not know whether it came from a class or a function. It doesn't need to know that, and it also doesn't know whether that that variable you're passing is a props or state of the parent function. It doesn't need to know that. So from the perspective of capital featured fruit, our component, it is going to think that that the lowercase featured fruit is props. It doesn't know, and that's fine. So what we want to do is let's look at our plan as always. I'm going to get rid of this since we don't need it anymore. Okay, so we're going to have a header, an H2 header, and we're also going to display the fruit and the text, the name, the image, and the text. So let's create a larger return statement. Get rid of null. And inside of here, we're going to have, let's just do a div that says div class equals featured fruit. It's helpful to wrap everything into one div because you can only return, in React, you can only return one parent div. You can't have multiple divs. If you want to pass multiple elements at the same time, you can use something called fragments. For now, just know you need to wrap everything you're returning into one parent div. Okay, and then within this, we're going to have our H2 element that says featured fruit. Let's see if it shows up. There we go. Okay, and I just want to make that prettier, so I'm going to give it the same formatting as this ABCs of fruit header. So we'll go to the featured fruit CSS and give it the same look. Maybe that's a little bit too big. Doesn't need overflow. Maybe a a little bit of margin wouldn't hurt. Margin, padding. I like that. That's fine. Okay. So we have our header, and then we need to display the featured fruit. So remember, we've been given the list of fruits. So let's create a map that prints out all of the fruits, and then we're going to tell it only print out the fruit if it's the selected fruit. Okay? So we're just going to create another function within our component that does this. So I'm going to say render featured fruit. I'm going to make this function, and here we're going to call on that function. Okay, so in render featured fruit, we're going to return a list of the fruits as we want to display them. So I'm going to go to our featured fruit. .map. So we're calling, this.props.fruits. Remember, we're getting fruits from over here. It's being passed into featured fruit as fruits, and it's this array here. So we're calling each element of fruit, which is each of these JSON objects. We're calling each of those fruit. And fruit is going to come in here. It's fine. We're going to have like div class is equal to, I'm just going to call this FruitCard because it's going to be very similar to what we have in the other place. And then like we saw in our plan, we're going to have the title of the fruit. So let's do, it's called fruit.name. Let's put that into a h3 tag. And then beneath that, we're going to have the image of the fruit. So let's do just an image tag, and then we're going to have src is equal to fruit.image src. Just make that short like that. And oh, let's give that a size. Width is equal to 500, okay? And we're also going to give it like the text at the bottom. So I'm also going to make that an h3 tag, and we'll print out the fruit.text. It's not grabbing the image. Let's see why it's not grabbing the image. Image src. That is indeed what it's called. Maybe we don't need these. Oh, yeah, that's going to be it. It should work now. There we go. There, the image is loaded. Okay. Ooh. So, let's make the background of this white. That's why it's helpful to have this class name, FruitCard. So we'll go to the featured fruit CSS, and we'll do dot, was it capital F? Yeah. And we'll have the background color be white. Yay! I don't know if I like that. Let's just have, oh, let's give it some padding and margin. So Okay, that looks much better. Okay, and now remember, we only want to feature one. We don't want to feature all three. So we're just going to do this clever code that says we're only going to run the next part of this statement if the first statement is true. So we're going to say this is going to be some boolean, so it's either true or it will evaluate to true or false, and this next portion will only run if the boolean evaluates to true. So we're going to say fruit.name equal this dot props dot, what did we pass it in as? Featured fruit. Boom. Now only the featured fruit is displaying, which is apple. I love that. Okay, we are actually done with this featured fruit component. So now let's move on. I'm going to save that, exit out of there, to the next child component of blog, which is sidebar. Okay, now let's think about what blog has to pass to sidebar. So again, sidebar doesn't use state, neither does its child element, but it does modify state. To be specific, FruitCard modifies state. So blog owns state and can change state, but it should pass down to sidebar, which should pass down to FruitCard, a way to modify the state. So, okay. Blog is going to give sidebar, just like featured fruit, it's going to give sidebar the list of fruits, which we know that sidebar needs, because it's going to print out all of the fruits. And it doesn't, sidebar doesn't need to know what the featured fruit selected is, but it does need to be able to change it. So what we're also going to do is create a function here in our blog component that is called, we could call it change state or select, let's say select featured fruit. And all this is going to do is we're going to change the state. In order to change the state, you can never do this dot state equals like we did in our constructor. We have to use this set state function. So we're going to first of all accept a name into this function, and we're going to set state. Oh yeah, this dot set state. And then give it our JSON, so we're going to do featured fruit, and we're going to set it to the name that we're being passed in. Okay, here is a function that changes state. What we're going to do is we're going to pass the function to our child element. So let's pass it in as select featured fruit is equal to this dot select featured fruit, and because select featured fruit modifies state, we need to bind the function within our constructor. So we're going to do this dot select featured fruit, name of our function, is equal to this dot select featured fruit dot bind this, which allows us to modify state from within select featured fruit. Okay, let's go to sidebar. So sidebar is going to accept this function and fruits, and what it's going to do is it's going to return a list of fruit cards. So let's map like we did before. So we will return this dot props dot fruits dot map, and we'll take fruit goes to here. So let's just render FruitCard multiple times. FruitCard, and we don't need that. And let's pass FruitCard fruit, where it just needs one fruit at a time. So we'll give it fruit is equal to fruit. And we're also going to pass FruitCard, which actually modifies state. We're going to pass it the function that we got, which is select featured fruit. So this is in our props in Sidebar. So we're also going to give it select featured fruit is equal to this dot props dot select featured fruit. Great. Let me think, is that all we need here? I believe so. Then let's render our fruit card. First of all, let's see, there's no errors, that's good. Oh, of course, we need our H2 element as well. Okay, because remember from our design that it says options at the top. So I'm just going to break this into another function within our class. So I'm going to call this fruit list. That's fine. Here I'm going to return, I'm going to give a div which is class equals sidebar, and on the inside I'm going to do h2 tag again, which says options, and then I'm going to call on this function fruit list. Great, so we have the options popping up here. Now within fruit list, we call on FruitCard 3 times. And let's edit FruitCard. And we're passing FruitCard a fruit one at a time from our fruits array. And we're also passing it the function which allows us to change the fruit. Okay, so FruitCard is going to return div class equals fruit card, and then it's going to have h3 which says fruit dot name. Nope. Fruit. Oh, fruit is a prop. So this dot props dot fruit dot name. Yep. And it's also going to have an image, and that's all we'll give it. So we'll do image tag and just end it like that. src is equal to this dot props dot fruit dot image src, and we did this in FeaturedFruit, we said width is equal to 500, so let's make the width here 250. I'm just going to put some breaks here. And we're also going to add a button, but let me see what it looks like. Nothing's loading. What's going on? There we go. I forgot these parentheses on this .fruit list. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, now let's add a button onto each of these. Also, I think that's a little too big, so I will change the width to 200. That's nice. Those are some nice buttons. Okay. So let's add those are some nice icons. And we'll add a button now. And we'll add, so select me as the favorite fruit. For each of these, we'll just see that here. Select me. And let us do on click is equal to this dot. Actually, we can just, so on click we want to change the fruit, and remember that in our we're going to have to make this into a function. So on click is equal to, we're going to pass this in, we're passing in the name of the selected fruit. If you click that button, it's going to pertain to this fruit card. So we know that that has a name. So we have the function passed in as part of props that changes state. So we have this dot props dot select fruit. No, it's called select featured fruit. And we're going to pass in the name of the fruit that we're selecting, which is this dot props dot fruit dot name. Oh my gosh, let's see if it works. Woohoo! Okay. That was it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you follow and make it slightly different, I'd love to see what you do. So please find me on Twitter here and capture a screenshot of your program. I hope that this helped you to understand React better, and yeah, please leave a comment letting me know if you liked the tutorial or if there was anything that you thought I could change or improve. I really appreciate your feedback. Anything else? I think that's it. Oh, also I'm going to upload all of my code, just the elements that I changed, onto my GitHub page, which is this. So if you want to see my code, go ahead and check out my page. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.